This week in Linux, there is some big distro news because we got a brand new version of Debian, probably. And OpenSUSE Leap 16 just hit release candidate status. We've also got some cool news from Nvidia, including their stance against adding backdoors to their hardware. Plus, we've got a new app release from the Mastodon client Tuba and another release from the awesome screenshot tool Flameshot. Also, we have now hit over 96,000 subscribers. We are so close to 100,000. If you want to help this channel get to 100,000, I would very much appreciate it. I never thought I'd get to 100,000 in my life, and it seems that it's probably going to happen. And if you want to help make it happen sooner rather than later, I would appreciate that. So please subscribe. So we got all of this news and so much more on This Week in Linux, the weekly news show that keeps you up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world. Now let's jump right into your source for Linux good news. This episode of Swill is sponsored by Sandfly Security. More on them later. Debian 13 Trixie is finally here. Well, probably. We're recording this episode day before that it's expected to be released, so there isn't an official announcement just yet, but Debian 13 should be out when you see this episode. Of course, this is a big update from Debian 12 because, well, I mean, every number version update from Debian like this is a big update. So if it's a major version number change, it's going to be a big update. And because Debian takes a while between main branch updates, and in this case, there is 11,294 new packages, 42,821 packages that have been updated, and including in that is kernel 6.12 LTS, GNOME 48, Plasma 6.3, and GIMP 3.0 is available in this latest version of Debian. This is also the first release of Debian that will support RISC-V at the same level as the x86-64 and the ARM64 architectures. And it's also the first Debian release to ship Plasma 6, as it's been shipping Plasma 5 up until now. Debian now supports HTTP boot on UEFI and U-boot systems. Also, all architectures except for i386 now use 64-bit integers to store time, and this is important because it prevents the future 2038 bug. So the year 2038 was basically a point where the 32-bit integers would run out of values to store time, which would cause some big issues, and they're now doing it with 64-bit, unless it's the i386, which is a 32-bit architecture. So some security enhancements are also available in this latest version of Debian. One of those being advanced exploit protection, protecting against ROP and JOP attacks. ROP is return-oriented programming, and also JOP is jump-oriented programming. These attacks are advanced code reuse attacks, techniques that exploit vulnerabilities in software by chaining together small existing code snippets to achieve malicious control flow. And speaking of control flow, they also have added support for Intel's control flow enforcement technology for more security benefits. There's also some performance improvements, and in one case, Phoronix reported that Debian 13 showed 13% performance improvements over Debian 12 on an AMD EPYC server. Was it a coincidence that it was 13% in performance for Debian 13? Yes, probably. I don't know, but probably. Anyway, Debian is obviously a great distribution with a ton of value, especially as a foundational distro. I use Debian for some of my servers anyway, but if you are interested in running it as a daily driver, you should know that it is more of a bare bones style setup. So once you get it installed, there will be some additional steps that you may want to take. We don't have time to cover all that stuff right now, but I might make a video on that in the future. So if you're interested, be sure to subscribe. We have some really interesting news from Nvidia. We have some cool news that they have released some new versions of stuff, and also we have some news about their stance on backdoors, because Nvidia put out a blog post that says, "No backdoors, no kill switches, no spyware." It states that some pundits and policymakers propose requiring hardware kill switches, and some suspect that they already exist in some hardware, but whatever. There are people who are trying to get it to happen and even suggesting that it's a requirement. Well, Nvidia is asserting that they do not and should not have kill switches or backdoors. They state, and I quote, "Kill switches and built-in backdoors create single points of failure and violate the fundamental principles of cybersecurity. This is actually a really good read, and they do have a good take on this whole topic, which is really nice to see because it is important for a hardware company to understand that trying to create some backdoor is not really going to benefit anyone, and even the people who are asking for it don't really know what they're talking about. So this is a really good blog post because I also give examples of the ways we learned in the past how that wouldn't work and all that sort of stuff. But another quote I wanted to give you from this blog post is that it says, and I quote, "Embedding backdoors and kill switches into chips would give a gift to hackers and hostile actors. It would undermine global digital infrastructure. And established law wisely requires companies to fix vulnerabilities, not create them." So I just wanted to say good job to Nvidia because I'm really happy to see that they understand that backdoors and kill switches and all that sort of stuff, it would be nonsense to do, and they're fighting against it. So I'm happy to see that, and hopefully we can stop this really terrible trend of these politicians and policymakers wanting to have this happen because it's never been a good idea. And for some reason, it continues to be promoted by these people, but hopefully that ends sooner rather than later. Another cool topic that I wanted to talk about is that Nvidia has dropped the latest version of CUDA. So CUDA 13.0 driver is now available. The ARM platform is now unified with single install across all ARM architectures, apart from the JetSet Orin. Update vector types with 32-bit alignment for better performance on Blackwell GPUs. This new version also has support for newer enterprise Linux distributions, as well as improved error reporting. And also CUDA 13 comes with GPU migration with CUDA checkpoint and ZSTD fat bin file compression instead of LZ4, and many, many more things. Unfortunately, this does drop support for older GPUs, including Maxwell, Pascal, and Volta. So clearly this is a bummer for people who have older GPUs from Nvidia, but you're still going to be able to have support, just not on the latest version of CUDA. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of Nvidia is that recently Nvidia GPUs have been reporting performance issues on DirectX 12 games using VKD3D translation layer. Well, an Nvidia developer on the Nvidia forums wrote, "While looking at Horizon Zero Dawn Linux performance, we identified a general optimization that benefits multiple titles with VKD3D. It is still in development, and we will give an update when it is available." So there's no time frame yet, but this is great to see that there's progress on this issue. The OpenSUSE team have announced that the OpenSUSE Leap 16.0 has now hit a release candidate stage. Now, this is not an actual release yet. It's a candidate for a release. For those who don't know, it's in between a beta release, which is not really ready for usage, is mostly a testing thing, and it's in between that and a regular release. So release candidate is something that is pretty close to ready to go, but still needs some more testing. And if all goes well, they're aiming for delivery in October. Now, this is actually quite a bit different from the previous versions of Leap. There is a lot of changes. Some of the changes include the new Agama installer for both offline and online installation. The installer only offers Wayland-based desktops. However, OpenSUSE Leap 16 is one of the first distros to offer an experimental build of XFCE on Wayland, which is pretty exciting. A clean install of Leap 16.0 comes with no YAST packages installed. The YAST software manager has been replaced with a new one called Merlin, Myrlyn, Merlin. Only a limited set of YAST packages that the installer depends on will still be around. They are working on migrating to Cockpit instead of YAST. Also, new installations of OpenSUSE Leap will be using SE Linux instead of AppArmor, although users can still switch to AppArmor post-installation if they want to. SUSE Linux Enterprise 16 does not support 32-bit binary execution. However, OpenSUSE Leap users can still install a grub package that enables 32-bit emulation to the kernel. But Steam has been dropped from the non-open source software repository due to removal of 32-bit libraries. There are no longer separate update repos for the package manager. Now a single repo contains both community and SLES packages plus updates. Plus, also OpenSUSE Leap 16 is going to have a new migration tool that has some very useful scripts such as 32-bit binary enablement, Pulse Audio to Pipewire migration, and also a selection tool for AppArmor and SE Linux. The biggest challenge now from this release candidate to the full release is they are working on moving their source code management from their own OBS SCM system to using Git. They state that this will also require a new maintenance model for Leap. There's still quite a lot to do with the next version of Leap, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try. This will be the first version of Leap that uses their new immutable-ish structure, so I will most certainly be keeping you up to date what's going on with the OpenSUSE Leap and also with SUSE in general, and especially when we get closer to the final release that is supposed to happen in October. As Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable, but with threats evolving faster than ever, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, they slow you down, they create stability risks. It's time for a smarter approach. And that's why This Week in Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly, the agentless security platform designed for Linux. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It transforms security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on-premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. And if your company is interested in transforming your security strategy, then Sandfly offers free trials to show off what it can do for your business. So visit thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly. And also listen to what Timothy Lisko of the Deputy CISO at DigitalOcean has to say about Sandfly. He says, Sandfly is one of the most exciting pieces of security tech I've seen recently. We're excited to not only be a customer, but also offer an integrated solution to our customers through DigitalOcean Marketplace. This technology addresses Linux security in a really novel and compelling way. So experience security that's effective and gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection. Dive into the future of Linux security at thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. And if you're fascinated by cybersecurity as much as I am, go check out the interviews we had with the CEO of Sandfly on Destination Linux. Craig has an awesome story about how he got into Linux and security, and you can check out destinationlinux.net/409 for that interview. Also check out episode 429 because Craig just joined us for a new segment we're calling the Sandfly Security Scoop. Craig explained how the stealthy BPF door backdoor evades firewalls, and we talked about DEF CON and Black Hat conferences and so much more. Destinationlinux.net/429 for that one. Plus, if you want to save some money on the home edition, you can use the discount code DESTINATION to get 50% off on the Home Lab edition. Again, go to thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly to check out the awesome folks at Sandfly Security. Open source is an awesome thing, and if you're watching this show, you probably know that. But what's really cool is that a lot of people and a lot of companies, and in fact, a lot of countries are realizing that open source is awesome. And one of the countries currently pushing it the most is Germany. So far, they have done this with the German Sovereign Tech Fund, funding tons of major projects like GNOME, Pipewire, Systemd, FreeBSD, FFmpeg, and OpenSSL. They've also been pushing projects like OpenDesk, which is to replace Microsoft Office, and also OpenCode, which is an initiative that open sources all software built with public money, which is very, very cool. And because of this, German companies now have increased confidence in open source. And with this, 11 companies in the German and European automotive industry have signed a memorandum of understanding for joint software development based on open source software. So companies in this alliance include BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. The aim is to develop non-differentiating vehicle software based on an open, certifiable software stack. This is awesome. This addresses a software problem that the German automotive industry has had. For example, the Volkswagen Group has had trouble for years with software becoming a bottleneck, causing delays of up to 3 years in electric Porsche and Audi releases. They ended up having to partner with companies like Rivian and Xpeng to work around this. With that, instead of duplication of effort, the German Association of the Automotive Industry has opted for a shared code approach to reduce development effort and speed up market launches of non-differentiating software. The goal is to work together on the non-differentiating software that all the manufacturers would have had to develop regardless, so these companies can focus on creating innovative software with their own differentiating features. So they published a roadmap with the first public implementations of important software modules being published by the end of this year. They've also got a lot of stuff that's already been published, and the first vehicles with fully integrated open source stack is going to be delivered by 2030 at the latest, and they're going to have a complete software stack by next year. I wanted to cover this on the show because it is very cool to see these kinds of industry-leading companies working together to actually find a solution to use open source for the value that it brings, the cooperation, the collaboration aspects to make everything just get that much better. So this is awesome to see, and well done to the companies involved. The Flameshot team have announced that they have a brand new version, and this is the first major update in about 3 years. For those who are not familiar, Flameshot is a really, really cool screenshot tool. It is based on Qt, and this gives you not only just the ability to do screenshots, but also annotate them. You can add arrows, text, and all sorts of stuff. You can even do censoring and various different things. It's one of the most versatile screenshot tools across not just Linux, but it's also available on Windows and Mac. And it's based on Qt, our Qt toolkit, and this is a huge update from the Qt 5 framework to Qt 6 in the latest release. It also has a few new privacy safeguards in this latest release. In fact, Imager Uploader has been disabled by default. Now, this is a risk of users accidentally uploading sensitive data to Imager, but if those who want to have it, you still can, because they're going to be moving it to a plugin. It's not necessarily there yet, but it will be at some point. There's also a new redaction tool that uses pixels from outside of the area that you're redacting, which is very good because it prevents people from finding data by matching pixels to certain text and fonts. So if you pixelate the stuff that's actually you're trying to censor, then there are ways to recover that pixelation. And if you grab stuff around what you're trying to pixelate, it's just they're going to be able to recover worthlessness. So that's awesome. Also, Wayland users now get correctly scaled screenshot previews with this latest version of Flameshot, and it also adds support for more Wayland compositors, including Cosmic and WL Roots tilers like Hyperland. You can now also set the JPEG quality when you do a screenshot, and you can now disable the screenshot aborted notification when canceling a screenshot if you don't want to get that kind of notification. Also, dimensions now appear in the capture area. So you can actually select a selection of the screen and it will tell you the full dimensions of that selection. Also, pinned images now support rotation and transparency effects, and you can now change the default sizes for text, circle counter, marker, and a few other tools. Arrows also can now be drawn in reverse, because you used to have the way you draw it would only go a certain way. You can now go in reverse as well. There's a new grid overlay for aligning annotations, and there's new keyboard shortcuts, and so much more. So I use Flameshot in addition to Spectacle. If I'm using KDE Plasma, then I just use Spectacle because it's built in. But on any other desktop environment, I typically use Flameshot because it is just so good, and it has all the annotation features and all that sort of stuff. And it is very, very convenient to be able to just make a screen selection, get the screenshot made, and immediately annotate it for adding arrows or whatever you want to do. It's very cool. And if you've never had a chance to try out Flameshot, then this latest version is a great way to start. If you use Mastodon, you may want to check out Tuba, a Mastodon client for Linux built with GNOME technologies. They have released version 0.10.0, which includes a ton of new features. First of all, before we get into the features, I just want to say it's okay to have like a 1.0 at some point. You don't have to do 0. Whatever unless you have a particular reason. But I see that so often, and Tuba is a pretty good application. It seems like it's worthy of a 1.0 in my opinion. Anyway, the biggest update is the new redesigned Post Composer, which the lead developer says is the result of a multi-year effort. You can quote posts, and replies now show a preview of the original post in the editor, and you can now drag and drop media directly into the composer. There's also improved poll creation, new animations, and an improved alt text editor. There's also new delete and redraft options for fixing posts after publishing them. Support for local-only posts is also available, so if you don't want to push to all of the federated servers, you can push to only a local post. They have worked on adding compatibility to other Fediverse platforms too, including new features for Pleroma and support for iShrimp drive timelines. There's also a new built-in app browser to open links in without leaving the app. You can also now open YouTube, Twitch, and PeerTube videos in your timeline without opening a browser. And notifications are now grouped together, so you can have more organization for your notifications. And you can also now pin saved hashtags to the sidebar. And the features just keep going because the search tab now has the ability to show recent searches. And also inside account profiles, there's a new featured tab where people can endorse other accounts and hashtags and that sort of stuff, as well as many, many more features. If you want to try it out, it's available on FlatHub. It's also available as a snap. And if you're on Windows, you can grab on the GitHub page for an exe. If you're a gamer and you're on the hunt for a good deal, well, Humble Bundle has some great bundles that will help you build up your Linux games library. The Warner Brothers Game Bundle comes with 16 games, including Gotham Knights, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate Edition, Fear Ultimate Edition, Back for Blood, Batman Arkham Knight, Injustice 2 Legendary Edition, and many, many more. All of these are compatible with Linux with a ProtonDB Silver rating for Injustice 2 and every other game having either a Gold or Platinum rating on ProtonDB. For Steam Deck users, only 3 of these games are unsupported and every other game is playable or verified. This bundle will cost you, I think, $12 to get everything. Let's just check real quick. So if you do $7, it gives you 7 items, and if you do 12, you get 16, so there you go. There's also the Better with 4 Friends co-op bundle, including some very highly rated co-op indie games with Spider-Heck, Moving Out, Fling to the Finish, Unrailed, Ember, Towerfall Ascension, Rivals of the Aether, it depends on your perspective of how you pronounce that, and Portal Knights. All of these games are ProtonDB Gold or above, and all of them are playable on Steam Deck, with 5 of them being verified. And this bundle will cost you just $10 for all 8 games. And if you do decide that you want to get one of these bundles or both of these bundles, please use the links in the description because that will be some percentage back to the show because these will be affiliate links. So if you don't mind, I would appreciate you supporting the show by using these links in the description and in the show notes if you're listening to the audio version podcast. Thanks for watching this episode of This Week in Linux. If you like what I do here on the show and want to be kept up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world, then be sure to subscribe. And of course, remember to like that smash button. And if you want to get us to 100,000 subscribers, be sure to subscribe soon. And if you'd like to support the show and the Tux Digital Network, then consider becoming a patron by going to tuxdigital.com/membership, where you get a bunch of cool perks, like access to the patron-only section of our Discord server and much, much more. You can also support the show by ordering the Linux Everywhere t-shirt or the This Week in Linux shirt at tuxdigital.com/store. Plus, while you're there, check out all the cool stuff we have there, like the hats and mugs and hoodies and so much more at tuxdigital.com/store. I'll see you next time for another episode of your source for Linux GNews. Thanks again for watching. I'm Michael Tennell. I hope you're doing swell. Be sure to ring the notification bell. And until next time, I bid you farewell.